In our relentlessly busy world, a world that often equates value with constant action and visible effort, the idea of doing nothing might sound like an invitation to failure, to passivity, to letting life simply drift by. Yet, what if there exists a profound, almost alchemical state of non-doing that, paradoxically, allows the deepest currents of our lives to align, for things to, as if by some unseen wisdom, fall perfectly into place? The visionary psychologist Carl Jung, an intrepid explorer of the soul's vast territories, hinted at such a possibility. He understood that beyond our conscious strivings and the often frantic machinations of our ego lies a deeper intelligence, a self-regulating wisdom within the psyche. But this isn't an invitation to simple idleness. Jung's wisdom suggests there's a crucial this, a profound inner work, a shift in consciousness that must occur before this potent non-doing can yield its remarkable fruit. What is this vital preparation? And how can stepping back in a very specific, conscious way allow our lives, our decisions, our energy, and even our destiny to unfold with a grace and precision that frantic effort often obstructs? Today, we journey into the heart of this Jungian paradox to uncover the art of doing nothing so that everything, truly everything, can find its rightful place. So what is this mysterious this crucial precursor to the potent state of doing nothing where life seems to arrange itself with such effortless grace? It is not a simple trick or a single action, but rather the courageous, often lifelong journey that Carl Jung called individuation, the process of becoming an individual, a whole, integrated, and authentic self. Before we can meaningfully do nothing externally, we must engage in profound doing internally. This inner work begins with Jung's resounding call to turn our gaze inward, away from the ceaseless demands and distractions of the outer world and into the vast, often uncharted territories of our own psyche. It means cultivating a radical self-awareness, a willingness to illuminate the darker, less comfortable corners of our being. This inevitably leads us to confront our shadow, those disowned parts of ourselves, the traits we deem unacceptable, the potentials we've denied. Jung taught that what we fail to make conscious will direct our lives as fate. Therefore, this involves the courageous work of acknowledging these shadow aspects, not to indulge them destructively, but to understand their origins, their needs, and to integrate their trapped energy back into our conscious personality. It means becoming aware of our complexes, those emotionally charged clusters of thoughts and feelings, often rooted in past experiences, that unconsciously drive our reactions and decisions, keeping us stuck in repetitive patterns. This is also about learning to listen to the subtle language of the unconscious, paying attention to our dreams, those nightly letters from the self, noticing the symbols and synchronicities that flicker at the edges of our awareness, and honoring the quiet whispers of our intuition. The aim of all this inner work is to achieve a greater alignment between our conscious ego and the deeper wisdom of the self, Jung's term for the totality of the psyche, the regulating center that strives for wholeness. It is about disentangling ourselves from collective conditioning and unconscious compulsions so that our actions begin to flow from a place of authenticity and integrity. Only when this inner alignment has begun, when the ego starts to relinquish its frantic need for control and learns to listen to this deeper guidance, can we truly begin to understand the profound power held within a conscious, receptive non-doing. Once we have begun the courageous work of turning inward, of becoming more aligned with the deeper stirrings of our soul, we start to encounter the vast and potent realm that Carl Jung dedicated his life to exploring, the unconscious. For Jung, the unconscious wasn't merely a dark cellar for repressed memories and unwanted impulses, as some earlier psychoanalytic thought suggested. While it certainly contains the shadow, it is also an immense reservoir of wisdom, creativity, and a profound self-regulating intelligence that he often associated with the self, the archetype of wholeness, the organizing center of our entire psyche. Our conscious ego, that familiar sense of I, plays a vital role in navigating daily life, making decisions, and asserting our will. It strives for order, for understanding, for control. Yet Jung cautioned that the ego is but a small island in the vast ocean of the unconscious. Its perspective is inherently limited, and its relentless desire to manage and direct everything can, paradoxically, become a significant obstacle to our deeper growth and the natural unfolding of our lives. When the ego attempts to micromanage the soul's journey, when it insists on forcing outcomes based on its own fears, ambitions, or conditioned beliefs, it often creates more internal friction, more anxiety, more of that feeling that we are swimming against an invisible, powerful tide. It's like a gardener who constantly pulls up seedlings to check their roots, ultimately hindering their growth. The doing nothing that the title of our exploration alludes to begins to take shape here. It is, in large part, about the conscious ego learning to let go of its desperate need for absolute control. It's about recognizing the limitations of its own understanding and daring to trust that there is a deeper wisdom at play within the psyche. Jung believed that the psyche, much like the body, possesses an innate drive towards healing and wholeness, towards individuation. When we constantly interfere with frantic doing, driven by egoic anxieties, we can disrupt this natural, intelligent process. Letting go, in this context, isn't an act of resignation or defeat. It's a courageous act of making space, of stepping back from the helm for a while to allow the vaster intelligence of the self to guide the ship. It requires humility and a willingness to surrender our carefully constructed plans to a process that often operates beyond our immediate comprehension, trusting that the unseen currents are, in fact, leading us towards a richer, more authentic shore. As we begin to quiet the relentless striving of the ego and cultivate a deeper relationship with our unconscious, a fascinating phenomenon often emerges, one that Carl Jung explored with great curiosity: synchronicity. He defined this as the experience of two or more events which are causally unrelated yet seem to be meaningfully connected. It's that moment when an inner experience, a thought, a dream, a deeply felt intuition, aligns with an outer event in a way that strikes us as profoundly significant, as if the universe itself is winking at us, or a hidden pattern is briefly illuminated. This is often how everything falls into place begins to feel. It's not about a sudden magical fixing of all external problems, but rather a sense that our inner journey is being met, guided, or affirmed by the world around us in unexpected ways. Perhaps you've been wrestling with a deep inner question only to have a book fall open to a relevant passage, or to overhear a stranger's conversation that speaks directly to your dilemma. Or maybe an old friend, long out of touch but suddenly on your mind, calls you at that very moment with a piece of insight you desperately needed. These are not mere coincidences to be dismissed, Jung suggested, especially when they carry a strong emotional charge and a sense of numinous meaning. He saw synchronicity as an expression of the connection between mind and matter, a glimpse into an underlying order where the inner and outer worlds are not entirely separate. It often arises when we are in a state of transition or when we are deeply engaged in the process of individuation, having done the inner work of alignment and let go of the ego's tight grip. The doing nothing here translates into a state of active receptivity and keen observation. We aren't forcing these connections, rather, by quieting our own mental noise and trusting the unfolding process, we create the space for these meaningful rhymes in the poetry of existence to be perceived. Synchronicity reminds us that there is a wisdom larger than our conscious planning, a subtle intelligence weaving through our lives. When we learn to recognize and honor these moments, it reinforces our ability to trust the path, to do nothing that interferes with this deeper unfolding, and to watch with a sense of awe as the necessary pieces begin to find their way to us, often in the most unexpected and graceful manner. It is crucial as we explore this potent idea of doing nothing to distinguish it sharply from mere passivity, apathy, or a resignation to fate. The non-doing that Jung's wisdom points towards after the profound inner work of alignment is not an empty void, but a highly conscious, deeply active state. It finds a remarkable parallel in the ancient Taoist concept of Wu Wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action. Wu Wei does not mean idly sitting by while life happens to you. Rather, it describes a way of acting that is so perfectly aligned with the natural flow of things, with the Tao, that it appears effortless, spontaneous, and incredibly effective. It's like a skilled sailor adjusting the sails to catch the wind rather than trying to row against a storm. Through a Jungian lens, we can see this active non-doing as what occurs when our actions spring not from the frantic dictates of the limited, often fearful ego, but from the deeper, wiser impulses of the integrated self. Having done the courageous work of confronting our shadow, understanding our complexes, and listening to the unconscious, we become more attuned to a guiding intelligence within. The nothing we do is ceasing the ego's relentless striving, its need to control every variable, its habit of forcing solutions based on incomplete information or unexamined anxieties. This is far from passive inaction. It requires immense inner discipline, the discipline to wait for the right moment, to listen deeply before speaking, to resist the urge to meddle out of impatience. It demands heightened awareness, a keen sensitivity to the subtle cues from our inner world and the unfolding situation around us, much like the Stoic practice of prosoche. Apathy is a draining of life force, a disengagement from the world. Wu Wei and the Jungian state of active non-doing is brimming with potential, a readiness to act with precision and grace when the moment is ripe, guided by an inner wisdom that transcends the ego's narrow concerns. It is the art of participating with life from a place of profound trust, allowing the self to navigate, knowing that sometimes the most powerful action is a conscious, receptive stillness that allows the right conditions to emerge, for things to truly fall into place. Understanding the profound wisdom of active non-doing is one thing. Embodying it in our daily lives is quite another. This receptive state, where we allow the deeper intelligence of the self to guide us and permit life's pieces to fall into place, is not a passive default, but a cultivated art. It requires us to consciously nurture the soil of our inner world so that these subtle yet powerful processes can unfold. So, how do we learn to do nothing wisely in this deeply Jungian sense? It begins with the practice of deep, multi-layered listening. This means attuning ourselves not only to the overt communications of the world, but, more crucially, to the quiet whispers of our own unconscious. What are your dreams hinting at? What recurring feelings or intuitions gently nudge you in a particular direction? Jung believed these are often messages from the self, attempting to guide us towards wholeness. Cultivating moments of genuine stillness and solitude becomes paramount. In a culture that often fears emptiness, intentionally creating space away from constant external stimuli allows these subtle inner voices to be heard. It is in these quiet interludes that we can engage in a gentle form of active imagination, perhaps by journaling about a persistent feeling, sketching an image that arises from within, or simply allowing ourselves to follow a daydream without judgment, observing where it leads. This honors the symbolic language of the psyche. Furthermore, this receptive state demands a courageous embrace of not knowing. Our egos crave certainty and rush to fill any vacuum of understanding with quick answers or forced solutions. To do nothing wisely often means tolerating ambiguity, resting in the unknown, and trusting that clarity will emerge in its own time from a deeper source than our conscious intellect alone. This requires patience and a profound trust in the psyche's inherent wisdom, a trust that is built, paradoxically, by experiencing the fruits of letting go. Paying attention to the wisdom of the body can also be a powerful guide. Often, a sense of inner rightness or dissonance is felt physically long before it's consciously understood. Ultimately, cultivating this receptive state is about shifting from a mode of constant ego-driven control to one of conscious, respectful partnership with the vast intelligence of our unconscious. It's about learning to be a clear channel, allowing the deeper currents of our being to flow through us, guiding our steps with a wisdom that often sees far beyond our immediate horizon, helping everything to, indeed, fall into place. Our journey together has navigated a seemingly paradoxical path, from the familiar clamor of constant doing to the profound transformative power of a very specific kind of non-doing. We began by questioning why our most strenuous efforts often leave us feeling depleted and misaligned, and sought from Carl Jung a wisdom that might allow everything to fall into place. We discovered that the crucial this, the essential prelude to such grace, is the courageous and often arduous inner work. The turning inward to achieve alignment, the honest reckoning with our shadow, the patient listening to the whispers of the unconscious, and the humbling process of helping our ego recognize its role not as an absolute monarch, but as a servant to the deeper self. We explored the vast intelligence of the unconscious, learning that letting go is not about abandoning responsibility, but about releasing the ego's tight-fisted grip on control, making space for a vaster wisdom to operate. We touched upon the mysterious rhyming of the universe in synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that often appear when we are most aligned and receptive. And we differentiated this active, conscious non-doing, this Jungian echo of wu-wei, from mere passive inaction, recognizing it as a state of profound trust, heightened awareness, and disciplined stillness from which truly effective and harmonious action can spring. Cultivating this receptive state, we learned, is an art, a practice of deep listening, honoring our inner world, and embracing the wisdom of patience. So, what does it truly mean for everything to fall into place? It is not a promise of a life devoid of challenge or effort. Rather, it is the experience of living in deeper congruence with your authentic self, where your actions are guided less by fear and frantic striving and more by an inner compass aligned with your unique truth. It's the sense of being carried by a current larger than yourself, yet feeling perfectly in tune with its direction. Decisions may still require thought, actions may still require effort, but they arise from a place of centeredness and flow with a natural ease, met by a world that seems, in surprising ways, to cooperate. This doing nothing, then, is perhaps the most profound action of all, the action of trusting the inherent wisdom of your soul, of life itself. It is an invitation to step out of your own way, to cultivate the quiet space within, and to witness, with awe and gratitude, the beautiful, intricate dance as your life, guided from a place deeper than ego, naturally, powerfully, and purposefully falls into place.